Welcome to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Joyous conversations about what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about our one reality. You have nothing to fear. You are eternal and you are perfectly loved. Knowing the truth changes everything. Now, here's Roberta.
Welcome to Seek Reality. I'm Roberta Grimes, and I am so happy that you can be with us today. Our guest today is Ryan T. Reichert. He is a born-again Christian, an author, a speaker, a podcaster, and a servant leader with more than 4 decades of life experience, working across small-town America and working also in global metropolises. He's been everywhere. He has a wonderful life of service, first as a retired lieutenant colonel serving 23 years in the U.S. Army, including airborne, ranger, and multiple combat deployments. And sir, thank you for your service. My husband was in Vietnam, so we are a service family with a long standing too. I admire you very much for that. Following his military career, however, Ryan then transitioned into the Fortune 500 world, more service, gaining insight into corporate leadership and strategy. Above volunteering and all the other things he's done, he's been volunteering, advocacy, service. He goes everywhere. Suddenly now he understands what his real purpose is, and he goes where God leads him, committed to making a lasting impact wherever he is sent. His journey as a recovering alcoholic and addict, and also a father and a business owner, continues to shape his mission, guiding others now toward faith, toward purpose, and toward personal transformation. Wow, he's done a lot, and his life isn't even halfway through. To aid Ryan in his effort, he's written a powerful book called The Icarus Effect, the highs and lows of our emotions. Oh, my dear Ryan, you've lived quite a life so far. Welcome to Seek Reality. It's really a delight to have you with us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Roberta. Greatly appreciate the introduction, your gratitude for service. But without your platform, I'm not here. So just really thank you, and honored to be here.
Well, I want to talk about as much as we can of what you've done and what you've been at, because obviously all the things you've been doing have led you to today. And a lot of people don't understand that those who are spending their time now serving God had to be a lot of places first in order to have God even find them and tap them on their shoulder. So how did God find you?
Yeah, it's really interesting. For me, the dynamic, one of my other books, I tell that kind of thing where it's this dynamic, did he find me, or was he just waiting on me to find him? And so I kind of tell the Looney Tunes story of, where Bugs Bunny's this dynamic of, hey, Ryan, you took a wrong turn at Albuquerque there, huh? And he's out waiting at a bus stop in the desert for me. He's like, man, I'm really glad I waited the 45 years for you to finally find me, because I knew you would. And today I know that amazing introduction, and thank you again. But for me, I look at the lessons in all of it, the dynamics for me as a recovering alcoholic and addict. Unfortunately, at 12 years old is when I started drinking, and, no proud moment, and understanding. Today, I teach 6th and 7th grade boys at church. And so to see them, that would have been roughly the age I was at when I started my 33-year career in the alcohol business, unfortunately, right? And those nudges of why didn't I stop then? It's like, when are you ready? And I injured myself in football in high school, and then I got back to drink more and hanging out with the wrong folks because I wasn't in sports for a year while I rehabbed my leg. You just start to see the peaks and valleys of lives, these dreams that are inside of us. When I was 12, I thought, I either wanted to be a firefighter or a a professional football player. I remember the little 3x5 card um, that our teacher gave us, and you know wrote down what do you want to be. And what I didn't know though is if you fast forwarded 10 or 12 years and knowing I had injured myself and all these different things, that I would graduate from the University of North Dakota and be in the army and go to Afghanistan and lead 31 men in combat. And to me, that's kind of like being a firefighter and a professional football player slammed together with some camouflage on. So,
But so Ori, you didn't have good parenting then, right? Right? Was
no, I
that your
mean,
problem?
no, I don't look at that way today because I look at our parents as they were doing the best that they could. They were, just like you and I are as old as we've ever been and as young as we'll ever be right now in this moment that we
How
share here on camera.
profoundly said. Wow.
And
Okay.
so, yeah, I was abandoned as a child. My father is, a recovering alcoholic. He sobered up when I was 6. My first 6 years, I probably spent more time with my grandparents than I did my own parents. Do I feel that my father abandoned me, during those periods or different things that happened in those early years? Absolutely. But I wouldn't change any of it because today I have such an amazing relationship with my father here on earth and my father in heaven. And only through all the lessons, all the painful things that,
Yeah.
as you described an accolade, I could tell you 10 times that I failed. Times in my military career where in Afghanistan I lost, I don't know, like 40 pounds over, the summer months of humping's what we say, traveling through the mountains, basically walking. And so you end up finding yourself, emaciated. I have a picture of getting my combat infantryman's badge, and I basically look like a set of uniform on a hanger with my face just weighing
Oh,
150
wow.
pounds. And I go, now what do you do? Well, you got to get strong again, but I've gained 60 pounds back of the losing 40, and then I can't run anymore. So I fail a PT test run. These dynamics that we have in life that everyone will say, well, but you were, decorated and so on and so forth. And it's like, tell me a time that you learned from any success that you had in your life. And I'll say, I call BS on it. I learned from the mistakes. The hard road, the long road, that is the shortcut in everything in life. And
Right.
so when I reflect, it is so many different times in my life where it's the perseverance and then knowing that through that perseverance, you get a redemption tour. And I'm just currently in a redemption tour the last, 27 months that I've been sober. The longest streak I've had in 30, almost 6 years kind of thing. And
My. Oh my.
it's pretty special to see it today and share it with you. And in the books that I write, share it with others and know that there's a lot of people out there that suffer from whatever's going on in their life. And we don't come into things in life on winning streaks. Normally we have a few losses. And, unfortunately today we live in a society that it's immediate gratification and we do not talk about the losses. We just don't allow it. And you tell me, like, as many years that you've been around, like you've had your moments as well. I'm sure that no proud moment or a mistake or a lesson that needs to come from maybe something that happens, and we sweep it under the rug. We don't want to ruin the good name of our parents or our grandparents or our children. And I say that's just so unfortunate because then someone along our lineage is going to have to deal with that if we don't talk about it, if we don't communicate about our emotions and those feelings. Kind of in the Icarus effect is that dynamic of being brutally honest in everything that we do.
So you've written a series of books, more than one?
Yeah, I have 4. Well, the fourth one will come out in a couple weeks. Yeah.
Wow. And so each of them is about your mistakes?
Yeah, it's probably a good way to put it. I would say personally,
Wow. And how you overcame those mistakes.
yes, yes.
Wow. And 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 you just kept you fall down and you get up and you try it again and you do better.
Yes, absolutely. I was, just before us getting started, unfortunately, I had to let somebody go in the business, knowing that, just current revenue in the year and so forth. And you want to talk about the hardest thing when you know that you provide for someone and basically they do an amazing job for you, but just the way it's supposed to work. And I know it's not in such a way as a failure by my part and so on and so forth, but it's this amazing dynamic of knowing that you'll work together again in the future, but this first time around just didn't work out for us, and we'll build something greater in time. And that's kind of one of my favorite mantras is just give me time, and know that in the season of valleys, when you're kind of in that dip and you've made some mistakes, you can't self-correct them immediately, because you took so much loss in what happened. And it wasn't just like one thing that causes someone to, go on a losing streak. There's multiple decisions that are made over time and space that aren't corrected. But to me, I just really look at that through whatever it may be. It happens for our protection. And you might ask, like, that makes no sense, Ryan. How can that possibly protect us? And what you don't see in front of you today is the prideful, egotistical combat veteran that was, number one of 30, number one of 20, number one, number one, number one, number one. Well,
Wow.
if you're number one for years, when does that go to your head? Yeah,
Pretty quickly, actually.
and you don't take a loss, right? You don't have something that is the most painful thing that you could possibly imagine. And what is that to you and what is that to me are all very different. And for me, it was not my blind spots, right? Not being able to self-correct in my addictions, and it cost me my marriage. And that to me was the death of my family, the death of my former spouse, and then my children, not wanting to be part of my life for a while. Now, don't get me wrong, we fast forward in this journey, and my children and I have never had such an amazing relationship. And one of them, we didn't talk for, I think, a year and a half. It's one of those where she had wanted nothing to do with me, and I completely get that, right? As her hero, as her father, I destroyed what she believed her future was supposed to be. And as the younger child, she got to see her sister, basically make it through high school before like the divorce and everything falling apart. So she had to live through more of it. And to see her today, though, that kid has the most amazing boundaries. I just love it. The things that I took 47 years to form boundaries with people and understand that you're not establishing a boundary to hurt someone. You're doing it for your mental health, your well-being, the self-care that you have for yourself. So when I see that at 18 today in her, I cannot imagine what this child, well, she's a young woman now, but what she'll do in her lifetime, because she's already established how she will execute her life, and knowing that the way you protect yourself is by establishing those boundaries.
Yeah. Wow. What a powerful set of statements you've made there. That all these negative things that happened to your family, even though you were broken apart by all these things and your marriage destroyed and so on, you still were able to help your children through all of that and help them become strong people in their own right. What a beautiful, beautiful thing. You helped yourselves grow up. I'm sure they
Yeah.
helped you too. You had to grow up pretty fast in order to help them grow up as you did.
Yeah. Well, I love actually just how you phrase that, because in the Icarus effect, that basically is at the end of the day, the ultimate statement is for all of us in our emotional maturity. We're either little boys or little girls. And for me, obviously, a boy becoming a man until you can be honest, open, and transparent in how we interact and how we live our life. So basically, you have to live the rest of your life being open, honest, and transparent. Otherwise, you don't get to carry the title of being a man. You cannot be the provider and the protector for your family, for others, and for society. Because even if you tell a white lie, it'll just turn into that little itty bitty snowflake, turns into a snowball, and then it rolls down the mountain and it turns into this massive.
Giant, yes.
And so that to me is how my life was. Those first 45 years, I just, every time I threw a lie out there, right? Because I didn't want the consequences, I just stuffed it down. And so I don't know how big, I think of carrying your rucksack, and it starts off in life, with a pebble. Well, 45 years of pebbles, how much does that weigh as you carry around that rucksack in life? And I know today I can't do that. It's impossible to sustain and maintain your life by having to carry around, say, I don't know, 1,000 pounds on your back, 10 pounds on your back all day long, every day, whatever it is for you. Only you can kind of equate that to what does that feel like. And it goes back to some of your opening comments of, for me, my faith is the utmost. My spirituality is where I garner all that strength today, and the understanding of living in this moment right now. I don't have to worry about an hour from now. I don't have to worry about the hour previous to this. I can just literally be present with you and know I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and I can truly be present in what we're doing.
But do you know how many little boys of your age there are who never faced the truths, who are in their, maybe still in their marriage or out of their marriage, but are buddies to their kids, never helped their kids grow up either? Do you know how many people there are like that?
You see it all the time because we believe we're protecting them. I
Yeah.
enabled my girls so much. I personally believe that all of this, right, the divinity in it, as terrible as it was, to have to, what they went through with, what was said, what was done, and all those days and months leading up to the separation, then starting the divorce process, and through the divorce process, I completely can't fathom it. Because when my parents ended up getting divorced, I was 22, 23 years old. So I know for my younger sister, she would have had to see a lot more of that. And, understanding where she comes from today, there's probably a lot of pain and suffering that she still hasn't let go of. And I get it. I can understand that. So, but I do believe the girls, to see them and the strength that they have, and know that, I'm not in a position to enable them anymore, because I know that I was hurting them more than I was helping them by trying to get in the way of what they were supposed to go through in life to make them stronger, to make them more emotionally mature, to give them their voice in life. So when they have relationships currently or in the future, they know how to communicate with their partner. They understand that we don't stuff this stuff down and carry it around.
Yes.
We have
You
meaningful.
chose to be strong and to show them how you could be strong.
Yes.
You chose to show them a grown-up. Very many married, I'm so emotional about this, I can't even talk. Very many men cannot grow up enough, even at your age, to do that for their children. It's very hard to do it. I know how hard it is.
I think it's really this piece of, if we weren't showing it, and this is where I go back to, I was born and raised Catholic, and in my teachings, catechisms and so forth, it was like my mom or another mother teaching us, right? Today, when I teach the, 6th, 7th grade boys, it's only other men that are shepherding and discipling in this. So they know that to be a strong man, it's one of those where, sure, the one time I moved the Bible without away from arm's reach, and I only have like one in each room along the desks, but where they know that the one book or books is this dynamic of, my favorite book today is the Bible,
Oh, absolutely.
and I
Yeah.
know that it took me 40. Now, before I was 46, when I bought and purchased my very own Bible, right? And I might have had a pocket combat Bible that I never really read unless the power went out or something somewhere in a different country or wherever. But I really, I'd kind of left that in the past, and I was like, whatever. I've done just fine without any of it. And the guys that would read it, throughout my military career, I was like, whatever. And I believe for me with the rules, for me growing up Catholic, there was just a lot of rules, and I was like, I don't need more rules. I got, I'm Irish Catholic. I grew up, in this dynamic of
Yeah, go
everyone
ahead
I
with the rules. Yep.
know is an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you're either labeled as one or you're a dry drunk because you sobered up and you're still got the icks and the isms. So when I really reflect on all of that, what I see is I didn't have someone to emulate what a strong, brutally honest man looks like. And, I don't fault my father for it because I guarantee that his father, and I know Grandpa Reich, who I always was like very proud of, like I said, like World War II Navy, he had his own business. He was the president of the bank. He was the superintendent of the school, like all these
Yeah.
great and amazing titles. And he was physically fit. And me being the closest grandchild to when they lived next to us, like I got to spend all that time with him. So I thought it was amazing. I don't know what he was really like, though. I can see through my dad and understanding, he also has PTSD from Vietnam and other things, but what does he carry that he doesn't remember? Or what are other people hiding that they won't share to let the demons out of knowing we carry these curses for some families forever, right? Because I don't know my great grandfather. I never met my great grandfather.
Right.
I do know that like they immigrated from Austria through Canada and then came into North Dakota and set up a farm and so forth. But I don't know any more than those stories to understand really what that is. And I don't write the books today to, you know, I write them because hopefully like someone else out there can go like, I'm only at X. Ryan was at Z, 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 Z. I'm going to pick up a little bit
Yeah.
of what he's writing or cooking here. And so, because as a human, I love comfort just like the next person. I'm lazy. I don't want to write a book. It's just
Well, I haven't finished your book, but I read part of it, and
right.
it's easy to read, and it's very honest. And to me, because so many men in your situation is who have been addicted to drugs, have been addicted to alcohol, and tried to get clean and then didn't and finally did. There's a lot for them to learn in your book. Let me tell you that. It's very good.
Thank you, Robert. I really appreciate that. It's always nice to just that the people read it, right? The dynamic of when you read somebody else's book and you have those aha moments going off because you think it, but you just want to know someone else out there has or is going through the same thing. It's not that we want unfortunate
I have
circumstances.
heard from so many men who were in that place where you were trying, your wife is leaving you, your kids are angry with you, everybody, and they turned away from growing up at that point. But you said, no, I have to grow up and be strong for my girls. And that, to me, is so hard to do because I've heard from so many men who couldn't do it. And you did it. And that was powerful. Now, how did God find you on that wherever that bus stop or wherever it was?
It's this is the thing when you go out in the desert. It's 40 years if you're not willing to surrender, and that's the truth. When I think back, so I took my last drink the 26th of November, 2023, 5 p.m. I actually have a picture of it because it was the normal to my former spouse. Like, this is the last one. I'll be home after this. So I took a picture of it and sent it to her. And, just knowing the next day that I found myself going to an AA meeting, and it was it's a certain squad, but they're also known as the God Squad, which isn't the normal dynamic anymore with a lot of Alcoholics Anonymous groups. It's, we're on our fourth edition, the big book, and, it's a higher power. It's not God. It's not Jesus Christ. It's not the Holy Spirit. And it's okay, because whatever you're going to believe in, as long as it's greater than yourself, fantastic. But for me, he's my best friend that I want to hang out with. And it's so cool because, there's a book written about him, and this dynamic that you just want to keep reading it. And so what I love about it is, since that day, the 27th, Monday, the 27th of November, 2023, I was challenged that night by someone in that group. They might have been someone, that done similar things to me and in their careers. And I said, I challenge you. And I didn't blurt it out, challenge accepted kind of thing. I knew that we have 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. And I'm just supposed to really start to listen in life. And then I went to my second meeting on Tuesday, and my third week on Wednesday. And I did 90 meetings in 90 days. And that to me is what just started stacking what I call today your 3 daily wins. And I got back into my physical fitness, which is your first win, physical win. I got into my mental win, which is just now reading the Bible. It started by reading other books and other things. I didn't get into the Bible until probably 7, 8, 9 months into my sobriety. And then you have a spiritual win. And basically with that one, you can kind of play with it, I believe. For me, it started with prayer first, because the whole meditation thing kind of seemed really foreign, maybe a little feminine. I don't believe that today. I think meditation's the most amazing thing for everyone. Doesn't matter if you're masculine or feminine. You're human. You're a child of God. You just sit in silence and enjoy what we call serenity. And it's so amazing. And that is what's created all of this. Each day, I just know that if I do those three things before I do anything else, minus walking May is my 4-year-old golden doodle, and she's amazing. She's my youngest daughter's dog, but in a separation and divorce, if you have two pets, one stays here and one goes there. And May was just like me. She was a lot. She was too much because she was attacked when she was just a puppy, and she has PTSD just like I do. And so some people that she comes across, I believe, senses their spirit, and, they have a stony heart, just like I used to have. I used to have a very stony heart, but I was replaced with that fleshy heart, just like it says in the amazing book that he wrote, that was written about him. And so she's the one who kept me alive in those first 6 months when I was sober, but I was so depressed. I was, granted, I do what I had to do to take care of her and go to work when I had to go to work, but the rest of the time I was feeling sorry for myself and just trying to stay sober. Just like you said, those moments of your children won't talk to you, you're losing, a relationship that you invested half your life into, and you're not on a winning streak.
Yeah.
And it's just really amazing though. Like I think of I love Rocky. I love Sylvester Stallone, all his movies and stuff like that. And I think, the story of him reminiscent about Mick, his coach, and, basically where he's like, you're going to go down when you go down, you're going to hear this little voice. It's going to say, "Get up, you son of a bitch, because Mickey loves you." And I think that same way, I always get very emotional with that one, where, that's God, that's Jesus, that's the Holy Spirit saying, "Ryan, I've forgiven you for all of those things that you've messed up, for all the things that you never wanted to be." And that's what the Icarus effect is truly about. The highs and lows of our emotions, we all have feelings. Icarus, his father told him, don't fly too high towards the sun. It'll melt the wax of your wings, and do not fly too low to the sea, for your feathers will get wet. And both of these will make you peril. You'll perish and die. And that's exactly what would happen if I started drinking again. I'd have one drink, which would turn into 20. I would go get drugs. And the next thing you know, you'd show up at my funeral however many days later. And I see that in excess of everything. I was a Copenhagen tobacco guy, one of those dynamics, and I don't do that anymore. All the other things that I did. Now I still have an issue every once in a while with Ben and Jerry's ice cream. I still have found that I'm working on that one. I have a grocery store across the street, and it's
Oh,
every once in a while I find myself getting a pint of Ben and Jerry's. So.
well, all right. You gotta give that up too.
Well, you do. You do. Every single little thing out there, if in excess, will kill us, unfortunately. And
Unfortunately.
you know,
But the thing is, showing people how you dealt with these things, that does not kill you makes you stronger. And that's what you've done. You've overcome the things. So they didn't kill you and they did make
no,
you stronger.
it did. I've never been this strong in my life. Every interview, every connection, every moment with amazing humans, and all humans are amazing. It's this dynamic of if we could just start with us, be unconditionally kind and loving, and reciprocate all of that out into society, it to me multiplies, right? Just you and me, I can feel the connection. Granted, it's virtual and so on and so forth, but we have that light that shines towards one another, and it just multiplies and grows and grows, and it creates this strength in both of us coming away from this, that then we just give it away, and we get to keep this beautiful life that we've now finally learned how to walk in, live in, share with others. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that I don't have bad moments or bad days, but I won't let a bad day turn into a bad tomorrow. We're gonna leave it in tonight before I go to sleep tonight. It's part of my spiritual practices. It's not tonight, Satan. You don't get to come with me.
Yeah.
We're not bringing you into tomorrow. And so that is where I think for me, when I reflect on my past, I was bringing 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years with me. And I don't know how I had the bandwidth up here just to mentally keep holding on to that kind of stuff. Well, we know I didn't, right? Like we know what it cost and what happened, but
Yes. But now you are so strong. Now you have so much strength because each of the things that didn't kill you has now made you bit by bit so strong. And that's the beautiful thing. You are giving the credit where the credit is due. You're saying, thank you, God. You're saying, thank you, God. Each time, thank you, God. Because that generally is where the strength always comes from. I mean, we give the credit to Jesus, but honestly, Jesus says all these things and more you will do. He gives the credit right back to God. And so I've
that,
learned, Jesus is our buddy. They're his words. We read his words and Jesus is our friend. But he always says, no, give the credit to God. That's where it really belongs.
no, it's so beautiful to hear you say that, because I do think it all the time. Like when when you talk about writing the books and so forth, and I'm sure there's mistakes in them. I know the multiple times that I've read them and the editors have read them and someone else has read them. And I think it's that fear of, oh my goodness, there's a mistake in a 106 page, 20,000 word book.
Yeah.
Well, I should hope there's at least one, kind of
Yes.
thing. I mean, goodness. So today I realized that that's why I just keep churning something else out or getting on another podcast to talk about it, because it just helps me know that he has such an amazing, I don't know what it is. Because in the military, for me, it was me driving the train, the bus, the whatever we want to call it, and going like, hey, I want to be a captain. I want to be a major. I want to be a lieutenant colonel. If you talk to Ryan and Ryan tells you his military career, I was a failure because I said when I was a cadet that I'd be a full bird colonel before I get out of the Army, because my dad's best friend was a retired colonel and my uncle was a retired captain in the Navy. So to me, at a minimum, success was '06, so captain or full bird colonel, and I retired as lieutenant colonel. It took me about five years to get over the dynamic of that. My military career wasn't a failure.
Oh my goodness.
And that's just
But each person that you share your story with and inspire that person to emulate your story, to give up what isn't helping and to free that person to do what's beautiful and what is helping is a wonderful thing. I want to tell you my story, which is really my daughter's and son-in-law's story. They were sponsoring kids to come to Austin to spend the summer and go to some meetups and try to find a family. And then there was one kid that wasn't even anyone they sponsored, and they heard his story. He was from Colombia. When he was 5, he had seen his father shot in the drug wars, and his mother ran away. So he didn't even know what day he was born. And someone said to them, he didn't get a sponsor this time, and it was his last time to be sponsored. And he was, I think, 15 then. And he was really desperate to come to the United States because he really wants to, more than anything in the world, he wants to join the U.S. Army. He really would love to join the U.S. Army. And so my kids took it into their heads to try to maybe adopt him. We could adopt him. Why couldn't we? And they tried so hard to adopt him, and they didn't have a lot of money, but they put together all the money they could put together, and they went to Colombia to personally put in a pitch to try to adopt this child, this boy, who was almost too old. They adopted him within 2 weeks of when he would have been too old to be adopted, and they brought him to the United States, and the Army turned him down because he had some kind of a small health problem. And so we all fell in love with him. Such a dear guy, couldn't speak a word of English. So we all helped him learn English, and we all did everything we could to, help him to just be, everything he could be to join the Army. And we all rooted for him when one day he got to join the U.S. Army. You never saw a prouder kid. And this summer, after 6 years in the Army, he's coming home. And that's our story of how my grandson got to first become a member of a family that dearly loves him. He now speaks good English, and he's coming home to be an Austinite for sure. But they spent $30,000, which was their whole savings, to bring this boy they didn't even know to the United States, adopted him so he could become a member of the U.S. Army, and he spent 6 years in the U.S. Army, and now he's coming home. He's in his mid-20s now. But how's that for a story?
I love, I mean, I'm sitting here just like, oh, it's so beautiful just knowing.
That's what love can do. You put it into your head. That kid had nothing. He didn't even have parents. He didn't have a birthday. They gave him January 1st for his birthday. And the drug wars took his family and took his future. But he so badly wanted to come to the United States that these young Americans who decided, okay, we're going to give that kid what he wants. What he wants to be in the army, he's going to get, so help me, he's going to get to be in the army. And my whole extended family loved him. And now they love him, and he's a grown up. I think he even has a girlfriend now. Wouldn't that be nice? I could have some great grandchildren.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, like some great
Yeah,
grandchildren. Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
That would
It's
be wonderful. But
so
the point
beautiful.
is, that's what love does. If you put it into your head that we are going to love a stranger enough to give him his dearest wish, which turns out he was going to be in the army too, and damn it, he got to be in the army. And he loved it. And we asked him, do you want to stay? He said, no, I want to come home to my family. He has a family now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what's, I don't know if I ever, I was probably that dad that loved playing with the girls. And I still remember, listening to them when they were little and so forth, tell me about their days. But kind of going back to earlier about being present and to hear your story about, yeah, I want to come home. I have this fam like that today. I finally get that. It just took me a lot longer. Thank goodness, like he's in his 20s and he's had so much to go through. And
Now he has a real family. We
it,
really love him.
right. And so once you see that, and once you know that, I mean, I think that's some of the pieces of it. And it doesn't happen overnight. And it doesn't mean you're born into, like, yes, your mother and father like love you, but maybe they're not ready. Their emotional maturity, this dynamic of first you got to be able to love yourself. And I think that was my problem. I just couldn't, for whatever reason, I didn't know how to love myself. And
Right.
so it's hard to love others if you don't understand how to love yourself, or you'll search for love from others and you still don't know how to love yourself. So you
Right.
believe it's all conditional when it comes to, if I do this, then whatever you're going to give me, I'll feel some love, or I'll get some love, or something. There's something there that's love, and it loves in the actions, just like them going and getting him and bringing him here and having a family together. Those are the actions necessary. We can all talk a good game, but is it, are you showing up? And boy, what a story.
It makes us all very happy, actually, that we have him in our lives. Quite beautiful. Well, we're coming toward the end of our time together this time. So, what would you like people to take from our time together today?
I think always it's just learn to breathe. Kind of like before we were, getting going and hitting record, this dynamic of just discussing in life the ability to pause, to take in your surroundings. Sure, there can be moments of emotion, either highs or lows. And in that, I use the HALT. And from an acronym standpoint, it's hungry, angry, lonely, tired. And if we're feeling any one of those four, it's best that we just halt or pause and we just listen, like being able to listen to Roberta's amazing story and know that all of us have a story and all of us go through things that are painful. But the love is what's so powerful. So for everybody just to be that kind, loving person that we have inside of us, that kind, loving person that I know God wants us to be. And we just don't let our emotions get out in front of that, because unfortunately we have a tendency to speak things that are unkind or unloving. And for me today, that's what I want to be is, if someone asks, have you ever met Ryan? Like, no, I haven't, but I hear he's really kind.
Yes, that's a beautiful truth.
Then I know I think I got it right finally. And
Yeah.
so I'm so grateful for your invitation to be on your show. And I know that those listening out there, we all go through highs and lows of our emotions. And if you're in a high, I say congratulations, and not saying that there'll be a low in your future, but it's just part of life because life would be pretty boring if it was all just highs. And because you're going to really learn in the lows. And that today is where I know now because I was able to find God. And it was Jesus Christ, like I said, at that bus stop in the middle of the desert. And we hopped on the bus together. And I said, I don't need to drive anymore. I'll just keep putting in the work. And I love you.
Beautifully said. Well, I'm just going to stay where you are. I'm just going to tell people who our guest will be next week, and I'll be right back. Oh, my dear ones, this has been beautiful. I'm so glad you've been with us, but we've come to the end of our time together. So once again, my beloved friends, this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. I'm very glad you could be with us today. Please never forget that you are a powerful, eternal being. You never began, you never will end. And when you really get all the implications of that fact, it's going to change everything in your life for the better. Next week, our guest will be Lisa Campion. Lisa is a master psychic, an energy healer, and author who has dedicated her life to helping people access their intuition and their inner power. With over 30 years' experience, she has guided thousands of clients in their spiritual journeys, combining practical tools with deep metaphysical wisdom. As the author of the best-selling books, The Art of Psychic Reiki and Energy Healing for Empaths, Lisa is passionate about empowering others to discover their own intuitive gifts. Her mission is to support empaths, sensitives, and those awakening to their spiritual path in navigating life with clarity, confidence, and compassion. Wow. Please be sure to join us next week for this shared adventure into some pretty deep ideas. And our guest this week has been Ryan T. Reichert, who has taken us deeper into some very important ideas that, for many of us, my very dear friends, many of us have been studying and growing together for a long time, studying what Jesus taught. Now, Ryan has been just doing that for, he tells us, only a few years, but he's doing it deeply, and he's doing it frankly, so all of us can watch and learn with him. He's been writing books as this has been going on, which I think is kind of wonderful. He is someone who is an author, he's a speaker, he's a podcaster, he's a servant leader, and he's been doing this over 4 decades as he has been helping himself to grow. And he's been doing it in part to help his children to grow and mature as well, which I think is beautiful. He's a retired lieutenant colonel, having served 23 years in the U.S. Army, including as an airborne person, a ranger, and multiple combat deployments as well. And I have to again say thank you for your service, my dear darling friend. He also has worked in the Fortune 500 world, gaining insights there into corporate leadership and strategy. And above all, Ryan's greatest passion now is just helping others. And he's learning and growing in that as well. Through volunteering, advocacy, or service, he does whatever he believes that God is leading him now to do. And he's growing in that and growing in that beautifully. Ryan's journey until recently was, well, I guess that when you are a recovering alcoholic, you're always a recovering alcoholic, an addict. He's a father, he's a business owner, and all of that continues to shape his mission, which continues to be ongoing. We're going to have him back in 6 months, perhaps, and continue to see how his mission continues to grow. And we also, just to mention, Craig Hogan is the president and guru of Seek Reality Online, which is your one-stop resource for all things afterlife. Just go to seekreality.com and start to learn for yourself that your own reality really is eternal. And the more you know about it, the happier you're going to be when your turn is to truly go home. And with that, I think we're just about at the end, not just at the end of our time, but past the end. But that's all right, because this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Please enjoy, please make the most of this coming week all together in our one reality, always knowing that you are a powerful, eternal being, and you most of all in this entire universe, you are infinitely, eternally, perfectly, and forever loved.
You've been listening to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Join us every week as we explore what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about the one reality we all share. Knowing the truth changes everything.